This is our final research project for the Global Learning Experience class by Johnny, Ian, and Tim. Our research question was, how do the differences in religion and culture affect sustainable urban development in Belfast? We looked at the voices of the residents of Belfast, government officials, mainly the Belfast City Council, university students, third-party urban development companies such as construction companies, and local and national news sources. We looked at fields of study including past urban designs, economics, cultural anthropology, and future goals for Belfast. Our ideas for goals for urban rejuvenation is to create more sustainable and available housing, peace building between communities, and to increase public space usage and availability. In addition, from an MDPI article outlining the importance of rejuvenation, God of Refi states that the peace-building process plays a critical role for urban planning in paving the way for sustainable peace or upcoming conflicts, where it is not innocent and not impartial. There are many limitations to sustainable urban design in Belfast, such as economic limits, high required housing equity deposit, and residing deficits from the Troubles, as well as market competition and cultural splits, as shown by this map down on the right. From Colliers International, a private firm hired to conduct an analysis of urban design in Belfast, they said that while most parties are able to obtain a mortgage, they require a deposit in the region of £15,000 to £20,000. And obviously that's a fundamental barrier to entry.
Next, we'll be looking at the causes and effects, specifically the historical roots and causes, contributing factors, and the correlation between these causes and the current effects they have. For the historical causes, we'll look at the Banishment Act of 1697 and the Civil Rights Movement. Since the Banishment Act of 1697, which forced Catholics to leave Ireland, there has been a lot of sectarianism in the area. This act was repealed in 1878 by statute law revision in Ireland. Eventually, Catholicism was the majority religion in Ireland, which led to the creation of Northern Ireland in 1921. This was a majority Protestant area. Within Northern Ireland, there was still a lot of division regarding religious affiliation. In the 1960s, there were several uprisings inspired by the U.S. Civil Rights Movement that focused on protecting the rights of Catholics in Northern Ireland. Some other causes are the Troubles, the Peace Walls, and the Good Friday Agreement. These uprisings turned into several decades of fighting and tension known as the Troubles. Up until the Good Friday Agreement, which was signed in 1997, there were constant murders, bombings, theft, and other crime between the two religious groups. In an effort to control and seize the fighting, the British Army put up giant barriers between the neighborhoods of different religious concentrations called peace walls. These were often 10 to 30 feet high and made from corrugated sheet metal and chain link fencing. They were put up rapidly and without any planning or any idea how long they would be in use. Because of the lack of planning, almost every peace wall and gate structure are still up, creating a very divided city with no plans for them to be removed. Once the Good Friday Agreement was signed, the violence ceased, but not completely, and the peace walls are still up today. There are several contributing factors to this issue, including the Troubles, the British Army, the IRA, or the Irish Republican Army, Protestants, and Catholics. The Troubles was the tension between the Irish Catholic and Protestant populations in Northern Ireland. The British Army and the IRA were both involved in the erection of peace walls, and they were also involved with the conflict in general. The British Army represented the Protestant, and the IRA represented the Catholics. The entire conflict was centered around the Protestants versus Catholics because of their differences in religious practices and beliefs, and how they were being treated with one another in Northern Ireland. So how does this relate to our question? Well, the British Army put up the first peace wall to deter violence in 1969. There is still violence between the Catholics and Protestants today, despite the Good Friday Agreement being signed. Though the violence is not the same as it was before, it's still there. And today, many of the people who were children in the 1970s to the 1990s during the Troubles feel safe and secure with these walls up because that's what they're used to. Without community support, there's a setback with taking them down, which means that the city is still very divided, and it is restricting the flow of different religions into different areas.
Now I'm going to be talking about how Belfast's history of conflict has shaped and impacted multiple ethnic and cultural communities. The bulk of the controversy surrounding Belfast's infrastructural shortcomings has been a result of the peace walls cutting off many sections of the city for many communities. These peace walls serve as enduring reminders of the troubles to both communities, which instills continued segregation and reinforces religious stereotypes. This also leads to the formation of many distinct neighborhoods with unique cultural identities and perspectives. And with this, religious practices continue to remain divided, and fewer mutual political affiliations are developed. And it continues the cycle of each community raising their kids and younger generations to develop sectarian attitudes. The peace walls also convey a sense of security among communities. Both communities are less prone to physical face-to-face confrontations, and this often causes heightened mistrust and but also dampens fear regarding the quality of their safety. The most prominent issue faced is physically restricted mobility. This includes many individuals being cut off from accessing shared spaces. And additionally, there are fewer opportunities for children and younger generations to grow up in mixed and cultural diverse communities. Moreover, due to their lack of mobility and economic challenges are experienced and shared in each community, it hinders business collaboration across these borders, and the peace walls give off a sense of stigmatism to specific areas, deterring investors from putting in money to further develop the community. Ethically, sensitive dilemmas make further progressive urban planning efforts difficult to plan, and many projects are often delayed. Peace walls also have parallel effects on Belfast's immigrant population and communities in terms of facing exclusion and neglect from many locals. Regarding economic opportunities, many of them are restricted from accessing certain jobs for geographic and social boundary reasons. They also have a hard time finding stable employment and have limited access to affordable housing, education, and public services. Additionally, they face isolation from developing new community relations. It is very difficult for them to build strong and meaningful relationships, especially in divided neighborhoods. And there are less cultural exchange opportunities involved in each interaction. And urban development priorities also make it difficult for the government to support immigrants. In many cases, sectarian division policy often overshadows immigration integration efforts and policies, and many of them are excluded from discussions dominated by Protestant and Catholic concerns. Despite these everyday issues faced by immigrants, many initiatives have stepped up to help them thrive in Belfast. An example of this is the Black Mountain Shared Space, where through their Peace Walls program, many volunteers dedicate their time organizing projects that aim to tearing down divides between peace walls. They also provide career and professional development workshops and host community building activities. And last but not least, they are a state-of-the-art hub that has modern technology and educational facilities for public use for immigrants.
This is a slide of our idealized plan of action, as well as the necessary requirements as a possible solution. Our plan of action includes identifying the areas of need, developing plans, allocating resources, enacting the plan, and then making sure to monitor and maintain to make sure that the plan is working as intended. The issue of cultural disparity has no simple solution, and so smaller actions must first be used to bring people together. For example, an increase in shared community centers, green spaces, or common activities would all contribute to helping connect people throughout Belfast. In terms of government response to what they have done so far, from the Belfast City Council, their goal is to improve community safety and reduce the potential for antisocial behavior or crime through an approach to new development focused on design quality. Belfast has already identified itself as containing a majority of high deprivation areas in Northern Ireland, mainly caused and limited by deindustrialization as well as poor land allocation. From the Belfast City Council, 5 of the 10 most deprived super output areas in Northern Ireland are in Belfast. They've also introduced efforts to remove peace walls. However, it's limited by some residents not wanting the peace walls to go away since they are a part of their neighbourhood now and they make them feel safer. From the Belfast City Council Local Development Plan, a limitation has been, in quote, the combination of deindustrialization, the Troubles, and the massive housing redevelopment had a profound impact on weakening the city's economic and social base. Consequently, its spatial legacy is evidenced by numerous derelict sites, poor quality environments, and segregated neighborhoods disconnected by peace walls and barriers. Another group that's been involved for possible solutions have been charities, such as Habitat for Humanity, which moves to provide low-cost home improvement goods to communities with lower access to such resources, which is good because it can reduce landfill waste and create jobs and opportunities. While charity resources are effective for small groups, ultimately lack of proper funding for large-scale operations limits the effectiveness of charity organizations. However, it does not decrease the publicity and exposure that the issues receive because of their work. A limitation is competitive development. Over the past few years, Ulster University has expanded its student dorms, but in doing so has upset residents as residents felt like that area should have been turned into more affordable housing as outlined by a few Belfast City Council plans. For our connection to the praxis model, a successful plan must include the framing necessary and take into account the needs and wants of all involved groups, as well as which groups could potentially have limited views. And for positioning, many limitations stem from inequalities in social categories, and so those social categories must be identified and the positioning of such categories must be taken into account. And here is our work cited.